You ever watch someone ruin their whole career in less time than it takes to sign a check? That's how this started. A cold Tuesday morning, Guardian State Bank's West Haven branch, and me just an old guy in a wheelchair, rolling in right as the doors hissed open. Morning sunlight was splashed all over those squeaky clean floors. I'm Elliot Dandridge, but that didn't matter to anyone in that lobby. That's kind of the point, you know? 63 years old, slate gray windbreaker, ball cap pulled low, expression steady as stone. The kind of person nobody give a second look unless I'm in the way. I rolled a lazy circle, just taking it all in. Staff still fiddling with their badges, sipping burnt coffee, a couple early clients hunched over their phones, pretending not to notice me. The air had that classic mixed printer toner, cheap cologne, a hint of lemon polish. Finally, I came up to the reception. Behind the counter, a woman named Megan Alcott, platinum blonde, early 30s, mascara thick enough to paint a fence, bob sharp as a threat, didn't even fake a smile. "Do you have an appointment?" she snapped, not looking up. "No, ma'am," I said as polite as I could. "But I'd appreciate." Hand up, cut off like I was background noise. Then, without lowering her voice, she said sideways to her coworker, "Betty's here to cash somebody else's check or complain about something we can't fix." Didn't need to shout it. Everyone in the waiting area heard. I watched a teenager glance up at his mom, uncomfortable, like even he knew something was off. I blinked, weighed my options, decided to give her another shot. "I can wait," I said, steady, "but I'd still like to speak to the manager." Megan sighed heavy, dramatic, the world's longest eye roll. "Sir, unless you're a client, the manager doesn't have time for walk-ins. She was done with me already. I'm not here to make a withdrawal," I told her. She squared up. "Then what are you here for?" "Because I don't really have the patience today." And just like that, another voice cut through. Eduardo, blue name tag, late 40s client services rep, stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "Is there a problem?" he asked, calm, but you could hear the warning in it. Megan waved him off, didn't break eye contact with her computer. "I've got it, Eduardo." She wasn't letting it go. But Eduardo just stood there, silent and solid. I nodded at him just a little and turned back to Megan. "Please, just the manager, that's all." She slapped the clipboard on the counter. "Fine, write down your name. Someone might get to you in an hour." I didn't touch it. Instead, I opened my folder, pulled out a document. The room stilled. Folks started watching openly now, the mother and son whispering, the woman in scrubs shifting her feet. Megan leaned in, trying to act like she didn't notice the tension. I slid the paper to her. "If you could give this to your branch manager." She scoffed. "Sir, we don't accept unsolicited paperwork. If this is about a complaint, we have an online." "It's not a complaint," I said. "It's documentation." She cut me off again. "You're not on the schedule, so unless you're depositing something, you can wait like everyone else." Someone whispered from the coffee station. "She's talking to him like he's a child." I heard it, and so did Megan, but she kept going. She pushed the paper aside with one perfect nail. "If you're not going to sign in, I'm going to have to ask you to move." I turned to Eduardo. "Would you mind taking a look at this?" Eduardo didn't hesitate. Megan tried to block him, but he gave her a look that stopped her cold. He picked up the paper, scanned it, and suddenly his eyes went wide. This is from corporate," he said. Megan's face changed, just a bit. "What?" Eduardo didn't answer her. He read the bottom again. "I think you should get Brian now." Megan stalled, but you could see the cracks. She grabbed the phone and dialed. While she talked in a muffled voice, I just waited. The whole lobby was in on it now. One guy even nodded at me solidarity, maybe, or just old-fashioned respect. She hung up. "He'll be out when he can." Stepped away like the problem was solved. Eduardo gave me a subtle nod. "We don't get many from corporate," he said, quieter. "Didn't recognize you, sir." "That's the idea," I told him. Now Megan heard it. "Corporate?" she said, but her voice was smaller. "You work for Guardian State?" I didn't bother answering. I just stared at the floor. Megan began to pace, arms folded tight, nails tapping her sleeve. Her swagger was gone, replaced by something brittle. That's when Terrence, the youngest teller, excused himself from his client and went back to his station. He started recording subtle, but obvious to me. The teenager in the waiting area whispered, "Is he some kind of undercover boss?" His mom said, "He doesn't need to be undercover. Look how quiet she got." And then a new face walked in. Judith Emery, power suit, regional investment client. Megan straightened up, tried to put on her customer service smile, but Judith cut her off. "I'm not here for a transaction," she said. She greeted me, warm and familiar. Megan froze. She knew Judith didn't know how. Judith glanced at Megan, then said, "I see you're already making an impact." She sat down by the window, making notes. The whole place shifted. This wasn't just a cranky old guy anymore. Megan was in over her head, and she felt it. I could have said something, but I just waited. Finally, the manager, Brian Covington, stepped out tall, solid, late 50s, hair flecked with gray, reading glasses hanging from his collar. He took in the scene, eyes landing first on Megan, then on me. "Mr. Dandridge," he said, respectful, cautious. "Brian," I replied, and the room went cold. He shook my hand, firm, steady. "I wasn't told you'd be visiting. I like to keep things simple. Surprise visits let me see what's real." Brian nodded. "Understood." Megan, desperate now, blurted out, "Wait, he's not just from corporate." Brian cut her off. "We'll speak later." He turned to me. "Would you like to come into my office?" I pointed to the counter. "I already submitted documentation. That'll explain why I'm here." Eduardo brought him the paper. Brian scanned it, jaw tightening. "Follow me, please." As we turned toward the hallway, I asked, "You have cameras in this branch?" Brian answered instantly, "Yes, sir. 6-point coverage." "Good. I'd like to review this morning's footage." Brian agreed without blinking. Megan stepped forward, voice cracking. "Mr. Dandridge, I didn't mean anything by it. I just didn't know." I looked at her, not cruel, just honest. "You meant exactly what you said. That's the problem." I left her standing there, shrinking by the second. Inside Brian's office, he queued up the security footage. We watched, start to finish. "I need this sent to legal," I said. "Already done," Brian replied. He looked tired. "I've let Megan slide before. Sharp tongue, decent numbers. But today this is different." I didn't have to say a word. We both knew it. Back in the lobby, the tension was thick. Megan stood at the desk, arms folded, chewing invisible words. The staff whispered among themselves. Judith stood and quietly told the room, "That man, he owns part of this bank." Jaws dropped. Even Mr. Fairley, a client for 20 years, spoke up. So he let her speak to him like that, and just waited? Judith nodded. "That's how he works. He watches before he acts." Megan, near panic, looked around for backup. None came. Eduardo, calm as ever, just said, "We both heard what you said, Megan." "It was just a joke," she protested. "Were you laughing?" he asked. She had no answer. Brian reappeared. "Come with me, please." Megan tried to argue, but his tone ended it. They disappeared into the back. The lobby was silent. I rolled over to Terrence, who'd stopped recording. "You can delete it," I said. "The lesson's already here." Terrence nodded. I wasn't sure what to do. "You did fine," I said. "Sometimes the hardest thing is staying calm while the truth comes out." Across the room, a mom whispered to her son, "People never are what you expect." I heard it, and my shoulders eased a little. Behind closed doors, Megan was learning the truth. Brian laid out the footage, the complaints, the pattern. "You meant every word, Megan," he said. "You just didn't mean to be caught." He took her badge, her login, her future at that branch. She walked out, coat folded, eyes down, didn't say a word to anyone. No drama, just the sound of a life shifting gears. I asked Brian to bring the staff. 6 employees lined up in front of me. I didn't rise. I just spoke, voice steady. "I don't come to trap anyone. I visit quietly to see how folks treat someone who seems like nothing. Today, I wasn't a client, or a man, or even a human being. I was a problem. And that only changed when Megan realized I had power." Everyone stood silent, thinking about where they'd been in that story. "You don't have to be perfect," I told them. "But the way you treat a person who can't help you, that's who you really are." I noted at Terrence and Eduardo. Some of you spoke up, some didn't. I get it. But remember, dignity isn't a policy, it's a choice. Then, something I didn't expect. The janitor, Clarence, stepped forward. "Sir, Thank you for how you handled this. 30 years he'd been cleaning that branch. Never seen anyone do what I'd done. Respect doesn't come from a title, he said, voice shaking just a little. I nodded. No, sir, it sure doesn't. The woman from loans, hesitant, said, I should have spoken up. I smiled. Now you have. People shuffled. Eyes down, not embarrassed, just changed. Judith caught me near the door. If you ever run for office, I'll be the first to vote. I laughed. No campaign signs for me. She said, that speech will stay with people. I answered, let's hope their actions match it. Brian handed me an envelope, apology letter from the branch. I left it unopened. I'm not here for apologies. I came to see who you really are. As I rolled to the door, Terrence stopped me, hopeful. Would you come back? Speak to new hires, maybe? That's not my job, son, but I'll think about it. Outside, a client held the door for me. Didn't need she just did. Have a good day, sir. You too, I replied, rolling out into sunlight, feeling the shift in the air behind me. Inside, things weren't the same. Staff spoke softer, looked clients in the eye, remembered what the day had taught them. Judith called corporate, gave her version, honest and clear. Your people don't need more training. They need more listening. That line started making its way up the chain. By late afternoon, that teenager was back, $5 bill in hand, ready to open his first account. I like that guy, he said. He didn't yell. Terrence handed him a pen. Best decision you'll make today. And that's where the story really finds its heart, not in who got fired, but in small choices, dignity over ego. As the sun dipped and the glass caught gold light, Clarence mopped slower, staff double-checked details, and Brian stood in the empty lobby, quietly promising, let's make sure we never need a reminder like that again. You know what I mean? Power doesn't always shout. Character's what you show when no one's looking. This wasn't about a man in a wheelchair or a rude employee. It was about how we see each other and what we do when the masks drop. If this story hit you, share it. If it made you think, sit with that. And if it changed how you treat people, well, maybe we're finally getting somewhere. So, where do you stand on dignity versus status? Let's hear your take.